hit record. So we're doing it again. I'm glad to have you. Just a little Zoom housekeeping. Make sure you know how to change your view if you're with me live on Zoom. You can click on the gallery. Sometimes I'll ask you to, or you can have me pinned or just see the speaker. That's up to you. I have myself spotlighted so that I'm the only one showing up on the recording, and we'll be good to go here in just a second. Welcome, welcome, welcome. I'm going to make my screen a little bigger so I can see more of you. All right, we have a fun 90 minutes ahead of us. You might even practice muting and unmuting in case I invite you to speak. And just know that this is interactive. So I love to see your comments in the chat. I might not always be able to respond to them right away. I'm running a one-woman show here tonight, but I do love to see them. I love your interaction. We're playing here together because you know what? A part of happiness is it's social connection and community. So even though we are seeing each other through a screen, know that our energies are connecting, our hearts are connecting, and we can connect online or off in the future. All right. And I may mute you at times so that I keep a clean recording. But yes, if you want to practice muting and unmuting, now is the time. I just muted you. I don't know how to pronounce your name, but it seems really cool. Isidro or Felix. I'm not sure which is your first name, but I may or may not mute you as the recording goes on. And if you can't figure out how to unmute, if we're interacting, I may ask you to unmute through the little Zoom button. I love your emojis. I love your comments. I love all the fun little Zoom emojis. And I think we'll have a small enough group here tonight that I don't really have to worry about anybody being an unwelcome guest on the Zoom, which I've had before because, you know, live events, virtual events, sometimes people show us things we don't need to see. So if that happens to happen, please notify me in the comments and I will make sure to send that person out the door. Hello, Marissa. Thanks for your comment. All right. Let me just take a peek at my notes and take a sip of water. And I invite you all to have water handy. Your phone's on Do Not Disturb, just like mine is. Let pets or people in your home know that you are going to give the next hour and a half to yourself because you deserve it. And the more that you put into this time together, the more that you'll get out of it. So have your water or whatever beverage you're partaking in handy. When I take a sip, take a sip. If I take a deep breath, take a deep breath. I invite you to do that, and I will point that out occasionally as well. All right. We are recording, so that is a success already. All right. Okay, here we go. Now I've got my notes lined up. Taking my deep breath as I settle into my seat. If any of you are presenters in any way, you know that it's so important for you to take care of your energy so that you can give the energy that you want to your audience. So I like to take a lot of deep breaths at the beginning. And I will tell you now that I will share tonight some good news and some bad news about happiness. And just knowing that you've signed up and there are a dozen more people out there who asked for a replay that is going to happen tonight, it tells us that we're not alone in this. We all want to be a little bit happier in our lives, a little calmer, a little more confident, able to trust ourselves in our lives, in our endeavors, and believe that we are capable of living and creating our dream life. I'm a big fan of conscious creation. We're always creating. Are we doing it consciously or not? We may or may not talk a little bit more about that tonight, but I talk about it a lot. So the bad news about happiness is that we have an epidemic of unhappiness right now. And 1 out of 4 women in the United States are on antidepressants. And this statistic is pretty common through the Western world. So it's not just the US, it's not just us, it's everybody in the Western world. we have more than we've ever had, yet we're unhappier than ever. But the good news is that the scientific community has cracked the happiness code, and we actually know now what it takes to be happier. And to be radiantly happy is what we're talking about tonight. I don't want you to just be happier. I want you to get to a point of well-being within yourself that you radiate happiness and you infect every room you walk into with joy. That's my hope for you. And I know it's possible for you because I apparently do that. Someone just told me yesterday, Tamara, you don't even have to do anything. You just walk into a room and people feel happier. And I thought, that is the nicest thing anyone has ever said to me. And I want to do some things for you and teach you some things so that you can have that kind of impact too. All right. I'm going to share some other exciting findings in the research in happiness, and more importantly, share tools with you tonight that you can start using while we're on this call together to be happier. And I also want to make sure we have fun together because life is meant to be fun. It is meant to be fun. And if that hits you the wrong way, if you're like, no, it doesn't, it's a struggle. Whoa, baby, you're doing it wrong. Let's get it right tonight. So let's start off with a couple of laughs. And now, little disclaimer, this is my sense of humor. It might not be yours, but these make me laugh. I'm going to share a couple of slides with you. This is one I get a lot. Happiness, a particularly cunning mental illness that causes people around you to feel annoyed and uneasy. I see a head shaking, yes. I like to share this one, especially in my senior communities, but hey, I'm edging ever closer to that senior age. I'll probably get some ARP invitations coming up in the next year or so. So we will always be friends till we're old and senile. And then we can be new friends. And then why are frogs so happy? Well, they eat anything that bugs them. A little fun to start our time together. I have another one that's a dog. That one didn't end up on the slideshow. I had some slideshow technical difficulties before we started, so I just grabbed whichever one I had that would work. And I have a picture of a dog, and it says, I named her Happiness, just so I could be sure that happiness would come to me whenever I call. It's a good one, right? Okay, perfect. Now that we're smiling and having a little fun, I'm going to tell you that we are going to share, I'm going to share 3 keys with you on what I think are like 3 cannot do without keys to happiness. And those are clarity, confidence, and calm. And we'll go into those a little more in detail. But what we're going to do first is actually exercise calm. We're going to practice calming down. I like to start with the last key first, because research shows that when we are in stress mode, our brains do not function as well. We need to decrease the cortisol in our blood, calm that nervous system, calm that brain so it gets out of fight, flight, or freeze, so that we can actually be receptive to learning. And we're going to learn a lot tonight. So I want you to be able to retain some of this. You also might take some notes because that can help us learn and retain the information as well. You could even drop some repeatable quotes that I may say in the comments just to lock that in. You know your learning style best. Do what helps you retain the information in your own beautiful brain. But when we're calmer, we're more receptive, memory works better, and we feel happier, right? And that's the whole point, because life has its ups and downs and struggles. But when we practice stepping into a state of peace and calm in the body, when we know what that actually feels like, we can learn how to come back to it more frequently and navigate the stress of life, good or bad, more easily and efficiently in just a few minutes. So before we begin, notice your own stress level right now. Maybe you rate it 0 to 10. 0 is like, you are so max relaxed, you're barely awake. 10 is like, I just ran from 10 different places to get here on time and I'm still late. And I can't breathe. And the world is exploding around me. Rate your stress level right now. And notice also the thoughts running through your mind, if there are a lot of them or just a few, and how harried or chaotic you feel in both mind and body. And you could drop a number in the comments, 0 to 10. How stressed are you? And then we're going to move from simply noticing our stress level to noticing our breath. What we're about to do is called the quick coherence technique, and it comes from the Institute of Heart Math. They study the level of, or the relationship between the brain and the heart on happiness. And there are so many amazing pieces of research coming from the Institute of Heart Math. I'm going to try to keep it focused on this one. So they've developed something called a quick coherence technique, which we're going to practice now. It's a 3-step process. Step 1, after just simply getting comfortable in your seat, feet on the floor if possible, eyes closed or gaze dropped low, whatever is safe and comfortable for you. Start to notice your breath and let it become a little deeper and a little slower than your usual breath. You don't have to take big, giant inhales or exhales, just a little deeper and a little slower than your usual breath. Eyes closed or gaze dropped so that your focus turns inward. Thanks for sharing those stress levels in the comments. Just a little deeper. And you may notice as you start to breathe gently deeper and gently longer and slower that you feel like taking a bigger breath. Go ahead and listen to your body. You don't have to keep it short. Go ahead and listen to your body. And if you feel like taking a deeper breath, do it. You could even sigh it out. And when you're doing this on your own, you could do it for 1 to 3 minutes, just letting the breath be a little deeper and a little slower than your usual breath. Breathing from the belly, that's our healthiest breath. For now, we'll move on to step 2. Step 2 is to place your attention on your heart center. So as you breathe gently, slowly, in and out, imagine that breath is moving in and out of the heart center. Imagine you're actually breathing from that heart space. Still breathe from your diaphragm, but imagine the breath moving in and out of your heart center. And for some of us, it might help to place a hand or both on the heart. For others, it might help to visualize a light moving in and out of the heart. Whatever works for you. Simply imagine the breath moving in and out of the heart center. And for a minute, we'll keep our attention there. On your own, you might take as many as 2 or 3 minutes. Just breathing. Noticing that light or that sensation in the heart as the breath moves in and out. Some of you may already be experiencing some of these benefits, and we're going to take it one step further. So keeping what you have, continuing to breathe, attention on your heart. Now consciously cultivate feelings of love, appreciation, and gratitude. Consciously cultivate these feelings of love, appreciation, and gratitude. You might imagine someone you love completely, unconditionally, that only brings joyful, loving feelings into heart and mind. You might imagine a pet. You might even have one on your lap right now. Or perhaps a place that's your favorite place in the world. Whatever you can imagine that cultivates those feelings of love, appreciation, and gratitude right now. And really let yourself feel it. I used to imagine, and sometimes still do, my youngest when he was about 3. I still will imagine him at about 3 when he had the softest, sweetest cheeks. And I'd imagine his cheek pressed to mine. my favorite thing in the world. And I really could feel that love, the appreciation for the blessing of my little one, and the gratitude I have for that time with him. So whatever works for you, make it work for you. And feel those feelings wash over you. And you might spend a minute or 2 or 3 here. Our ultimate goal is 3 to 5 minutes, and I'll share why in a few minutes. But let these feelings really fill you up, wash over you, wash through you. And the more that you put into it, the more you get out yet again. And before you open your eyes, go ahead and release that vision and notice how you feel. Just notice the body before you open your eyes. Notice how that stress level may have changed. And give your body a gentle little shake to just bring yourself back into the physical world. Maybe now take a deep breath before you let your breath return to its natural rhythm. And then when you're ready, gently open your eyes. And maybe now, drop in the comments, how would you rate your stress level now? And I'll just wait to see a few of those scores drop in. Yeah, okay, I'm going to check you out, Marissa. Let's see what you had before. Was it an 8 or a 7? It was already starting to go down as you settled in, and now it's a 5. Thank you, Heidi. You were at a 6. Now you're at a 4. Yeah. So I know there happen to be at least a couple of people who present professionally online, and we all, online or in person, we all do it to some extent, right? This is a great tool if you're a presenter, if you teach anything personal development wise to begin with, because it helps you calm down too. I always use this at the very beginning of my talks within the first 15 minutes because it helps me calm down. And this is a tool that I invite you to practice regularly, once or twice a day for the next week, especially, simply to notice how it impacts you overall. And you can do it anywhere. You could do it in the car on the way to pick up the kids, or on the way home from work, or in the garage before you step out into that transition from work life to home life. You could do it in the pickup line. You could do it on the toilet. I don't care where you do it. But the more that you practice tools when you don't really need them, the more accessible they are for you when you do. If we never, ever in our lives have picked up a drill, if the screws fall off and the door falls down, we will not know what to do. But if we've practiced, we've figured it out, we've looked at all the pieces, we've played with the buttons, we've gone, rrr, rrr, rrr. If the door falls off, we're going to have a much higher likelihood of being able to put it back on than if we'd never touched that screwdriver in the first place. Oh, yeah. Hot flashes. I am fortunate and grateful that I don't have those yet. And that will prevent us from relaxing completely. But what a wonderful tool to utilize in that moment to help calm the heat down in the system. I hear they're pretty intense. Yeah. And if you're having thoughts about those too, this little breath break, this intentional conscious cultivation of positive feelings will likely help you handle that. And what happens here when we do this particular breathing is we put our heart rhythm into a coherent rhythm. I'm going to show you a slide real quick so you can see what I'm talking about. When we're in stress, tension, frustration, hot flashes, our heart rhythm goes into an incoherent rhythm. And you see these red lines here all over the place. This is increased cortisol. This is increased heart rate. This is increased stress level, and it depresses our immune system. And when we are in a state of frustration or dis-ease for even just 5 minutes, it actually depresses the immune system for up to 6 hours. 6 hours. And it minimizes cognitive function because all of our physical resources are going to manage the stress. When we are in a state of love, appreciation, gratitude, then our heart rhythm goes into this coherent level, and the exact opposite happens. Our immune systems are boosted for up to 6 hours. Our cognitive function returns, memory is better, things I mentioned earlier. And this is what we want more of. We know that stress causes disease in the body, disease in the brain. It's part of the body. So we want to practice calming ourselves down. And especially if you're a person who has spent more time in a stress state than a calm state, we need to let the body know it's safe to experience this. And the more that we practice it, the more we're likely to accept feeling calm and not think it's boring or that something's wrong with us because we're not excited or agitated or hypervigilant. So that is tool number one, practice calm so that you can assimilate these other skills that I'm about to share with you. And before I do, I'll tell you a little bit about myself and why this work is so important to me. So my name is Tamara Zoner, if you were wondering how to pronounce that. It's Tamara. And I am an award-winning keynote speaker and happiness trainer. And I work with people to support them in cultivating radiant relationships with themselves and then others through the tools and skills and habits of happiness so that they can create a life they love now. You don't have to wait to love your life. You get to love it right now. And these skills and tools will help you do that. I am one of the happiest people I know. I've been told one of the happiest people most people know. And I wake up most days grateful and happy and appreciative of the life that I live. I have 3 teenagers who still love to hang out with mom. That tells you everything you need to know, right? And I have a wonderful partner that I live with now. We continue to grow together. And a couple of years ago, we moved into our dream home together on a lake in Michigan, not on the big lakes. We have a million small lakes here in Michigan, and we live on one of them. And it's really kind of a dream life. I get to do what I love, teaching other people how to access their own happiness and cultivate more of it. And I get to do that online, in person, local events. My life is pretty freaking cool. And I love it. And it was not always this way. It was not always this way. 10 years ago, let's say 12 now, because time keeps moving, I was in a highly controlling, emotionally abusive marriage to a high-functioning alcoholic. And I was the exact opposite of happy. I was really angry, resentful, tense, miserable. I found myself yelling at my children who were very young at the time. They're 15, 18 on Monday, and 19 now. So imagine 12 years ago how little they were. And I was yelling at them like over nothing. And I didn't recognize this person that I had become, and I sure didn't like her. I had lost my confidence. I had lost my voice. Perhaps I'll say now that I had given it away, but at the time, I just didn't know how to find it. I was in a marriage of 15 years and I felt very stuck. How could I leave when I had 3 little kids to take care of? And so I felt like I had to be this perfect wife or this perfect person, but none of that was happening because life wasn't changing. I wasn't changing. And I was really, 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 really unhappy. And then I came home for a visit 10 years ago in August. And as I spent time with my family, I had fought for this visit to come home without my ex-husband. Now he's my ex-husband. We lived in the UK at the time. I wanted to bring my kids home to visit, but he couldn't get time away from work. So I fought for this visit because I knew it was important. Something in me knew that I needed to fight for it. And I did. And he finally said yes. And the 3 kids and I came home. And after a few days surrounded by family and friends, I noticed my shoulders start to relax. I noticed my breath begin to deepen. And I thought, wow, these people are saying that they love me and they're also treating me like this. And long story short, I decided to make a new choice and leave that marriage. Very long story short. And over time, I began to reclaim my own voice. I began to rebuild my confidence. And I, with a lot of practice, changed from yelling at my kids and being reactive to being able to pause and respond with loving kindness. And just a few years later, the kids couldn't even remember that crazy yelling mom I told them about. And today we're buddies and we have a great time. And I am a confident, happy person because of the tools that I used and practiced along the way. I got support because none of us can do this alone. I got therapy, which is very important to help us process why we've been repeating patterns, but I got coaching to help me create new ones and a new life that I love. And I want that for you because what I know for sure is that we can change this world to that happier, better place that we all want it to be, one happier person at a time. And it's through these tools and resources that we can do it. I gathered these tools and resources and transformed my own life, which in turn transformed my children's lives. And now I share them with anybody who will listen. Maybe you're here tonight because you're a parent who feels like you might be screwing up your kids and you know you need to clean it up so that you don't pass it on to them. Maybe you have never had to make the hard decision to divorce or leave a marriage or a relationship, but I bet many of you have. And I'm wondering if any of you can remember a time when you felt stuck at some point in your life. If you felt stuck at any point in your life, raise your hand. Yeah, I did too. I felt stuck in my marriage. And what I learned is that I only thought that I was stuck. And once I learned these tools and resources, I was able to change my mind, get unstuck, and create a better life for myself. Maybe you're feeling that way right now, and that's why you're here. Maybe you're ready for more joy, more fulfillment, more confidence, more calm, more clarity. Maybe you're not even sure what comes next. What I'm going to share with you today has helped hundreds of people to create lives they love in much less time than it took me. And I know for sure if it's possible for me, it's possible for you. All it takes is using some of the tools that you will learn tonight, one that you've already learned tonight, and to begin to practice and develop the habits of happiness. So before we learn and dig into the next two keys, I want to bust the big myth of happiness for you. Has anyone ever said to themselves, well, if this thing changed, if I got that promotion, or if I got that bigger, better house, or that perfect partner, then I'd be happy. Anyone ever say any of those things to themselves? Yes, thank you for all raising your hands. But this is the big myth of happiness. It's as if there's something outside of you that determines your happiness instead of what is inside of you. Like you can't be happy right now, but you actually can be. And what the hell is happiness anyway? Let's talk about that for a second, okay? So I want to give you the working definition of happiness that I use. And this comes from my mentor, Marcy Shimoff, and her book, Happy for No Reason. So she calls it happy for no reason. I call it authentic happiness or just happiness in general. And it is an inner state of peace and well-being that doesn't depend on circumstances. And I will repeat this. An inner state of peace and well-being that doesn't depend on circumstances. And radiant happiness, the kind that shines through you, that you may see reflected in me, grows from this place, this inner state of peace and well-being that we cultivate. It's where happiness does not depend on the ifs or the thens, on the weather or the mother-in-law or the government or anything but the tools that you practice from the inside out. Because without these practices of happiness, no matter what changes for you on the outside, the inside is still the same. You're still the same. And that's why we define it as an inner state of peace and well-being that doesn't depend on circumstances. And that does not mean that you will feel happy all of the time. That is just not part of the human experience. It doesn't mean that you'll walk around with this silly grin, or that I'm asking you to just like walk around like, yay, woo, or live in any kind of toxic positivity or denial of how you're really feeling or what you're experiencing. This is authentic happiness, which means that you will still feel, hopefully, the full range of human emotions: grief, anger, frustration, neutrality, contentment, joy, fulfillment, excitement. You'll feel it all. And when you're experiencing those lower, energetically depleting emotions, through these practices and with a state of peace and well-being that doesn't depend on the circumstances, you'll be able to move through those circumstances more efficiently, more effectively than you ever have before. Authentic happiness, true, deep, radiant happiness is not a temporary feeling. It is an inner state of being. One of my clients, I'll share a few client stories with you just to drive it home. One of my clients came to me in the midst of a cancer diagnosis, a breast cancer diagnosis, and she took one of my group classes with me. It was what I was calling it then was a deep dive into happiness. Now I call it Radiant Happiness Rebirth, and it's a longer program. But she took that course with me during chemo. And at the end of it, she remarked to me how easy treatment had been for her. Chemo had been easy. She almost felt guilty about it, but she knew what to do with those feelings too. A little quick coherence for her. She practiced the tools that I taught her in that program, and she used them for her body and her mind. And then chemo felt easy because these tools work when we use them. And yes, she recovered and she is cancer-free. And now I want to share another really important piece in the research that we've found in the last 20 years in the study of happiness and positive psychology. And it is called the happiness set point. And I'm going to bring up my slide again. Here we go. The happiness set point is this genetic and learned tendency to remain at a certain level of happiness. You know, we've all heard that question, do you see the glasses half full or half empty? And sometimes it feels like we're born with this particular outlook, and we're either optimistic or we're pessimistic. And in part, this is true. But thankfully, it's not the end of the story. So this set point works like a thermostat setting. And no matter what happens to us, good or bad, happy or sad, we generally hover around our happiness set point unless we consciously do something about it. So this explains why people who win the lottery might feel really so much happier for a short period of time, or people who enter into a new relationship and they're in that honeymoon phase, they seem so happy for a period of time. But within about a year, they return to their original set point. And the same is true for people who experience grief or loss or tragedy. They return to their happiness set point within about a year. So while we can swing up or down a bit, if we do nothing about it, our happiness level stays the same. The good news here is that with some simple practices, one of which you've already learned, we can raise our happiness set point. And that's why I teach these practices. I've continued to raise my own happiness set point month after month, year after year. But since this is such an important piece of our happiness, I want you to know how it's determined. I always think that it really helps to know the science behind why we are the way we are. And if you're like me, you'll enjoy these little research bits. So the happiness set point is 50% genetic. You're born with it. So I got the happiness gene passed down from my grandmother to my father to me. I probably have a typically higher set point than most people, even though I've had my share of difficulties in life. I may bounce back quicker than the average person. Who knows? My sister, on the other hand, she inherited the grumpy gene passed down from our maternal grandmother to my mother to her. It works really well for her in her line of work. She's a police officer. So it's 50% genetic. You're born with it. It's only 10% circumstances. 10% circumstances. And that is such a tiny piece of the pie. That's the one everybody's trying to control, right? What we just talked about, that myth of more, that if this changes, then I'll be happy, right? I was thinking those thoughts. If my husband changes, then I'll be happy. But that didn't happen. I had to do the work, because guess what the other 40% is? Oops. The other 40% are your habits. Specifically, your habits of thought and behavior. So what and how you think and what you do. And this is what we have the most control over. This is where we can influence our lives. Habits of thought and behavior. And in fact, what the research has shown is that really the main difference between happier people, people with greater well-being, that inner state of peace and well-being, and unhappier people is simply that we have different habits. We just have different habits, folks. And to take it even one step further, scientists who study epigenetics, the impact of all these habits plus our environment on our genetics, they're saying that these habits of thoughts and behavior influence the expressions of our genes. So we actually have up to 90% influence on our happiness, on our well-being, on that set point. We still cannot control our mother's behavior. We can't make people we miss call us. We can't change the weather from rain or cold to sunshine, but we can change the way that we respond to it and think about it. Okay. So you might be asking yourself, well, Tamara, you make that sound super easy. If all we have to do is change a few habits, then why don't we? Well, have any of you ever tried to dump a bad habit? Did it work? Even if that happiness pie was just like that? No. Let's do a little experiment to find out why. So I invite you to play along with me, whether you're watching this live with me right here in the Zoom room or watching it back on a recording. Play along. Again, I'll repeat, the more you put into something, the more you get out. So go ahead and clasp your hands together and clasp your fingers together. Okay. And notice how that feels. You're probably like, that's totally cool, Tamara. What's this all about? Well, for a little fun, for those of you with your right thumb on top, the research shows that you're the better thinkers, but you probably knew that. And those of you with your left thumb on top, you are the sexier bunch. Now that part's just for fun. I can usually tell from the crowd who's looking, oh, yeah, that's me, what their value is, sexy or smart. But that's not the real part of the research. Go ahead and unclasp, switch your fingers so that the opposite thumb lands on top. And I am sorry, it won't make you smarter or sexier. But notice how that feels. Notice how that feels. And go ahead, feel it for a moment, and then you can release the grasp and drop in the comments below how that felt. How did that feel? Give me some words. I just did this yesterday with a group of cool active seniors. Oh, Heidi says unnatural. What else do you got? I heard odd yesterday. I see people typing. Okay, weird. Yep. It felt like a fish out of water. I like that one. Good one. Made me think. Second time I tried to change, but I was still a thinker. Yeah. Awkward, but interesting. Awkward, like I had extra fingers. Yeah, so here's our answer. We don't stick with the habits that will help us become that happier person because it feels weird. Changing or introducing a new habit feels weird, awkward, uncomfortable, like a fish out of water. So we don't like it, so we don't keep it up. We don't do it. This is why most New Year's resolution fails. This is why most diets fail, because it's different, weird, uncomfortable, and we don't like it. We have to actually start doing the behavior repeatedly until it feels a little more comfortable and we begin to notice some benefits. Do it enough and it will feel like your new normal. In fact, I've been doing this particular, like a version of this workshop for 4 years now. And one day last year I was doing it and my opposite thumb landed on top and it felt so normal that was weird. I was like, oh my gosh, I've done this exercise so many times that either way feels pretty normal. But I don't know if I'm sad or happy about the fact that I'm still sexier than smart. So here's the thing about change. Change is hard. Change is hard. Oh, that sweet little puppy. Dragging along. This is how we feel when we introduce a new habit, right? Like somebody has to drag our bums right across the sidewalk. Oops. Change is hard at first, messy in the middle, and so gorgeous at the end. You can screenshot that if you want. You can write it down because this is something I want you to remember. Change is hard at first. And it gets kind of messy in the middle. And then at the end, you're so glad you did it because life feels better. You might be right at the starting point. And tonight I'm sharing just a snippet of the information that I spent 9 months teaching my group clients with, 6 months with a one-on-one client, teaching the stuff, holding them through that messy middle so that they can get to the glorious end. So know that if it feels weird, awkward, uncomfortable, wrong, that's normal. And all you have to do is decide to stick with it until your life feels better. Oh, so I obviously don't have time to give you everything I've ever learned or taught. And what I have learned over the years of presenting different tools is that if I don't offer you an opportunity to work at a deeper, more consistent level with me, then I'm actually doing you a disservice. So at the end of our time, I'll offer you a free 30-minute call with me. You can take it up or leave it. I don't have a vested interest in what you do at the end of this, but my hope for you is that you will seek the support necessary to make sustainable change in your own life so that you can wake up every single day with a little more inner peace and well-being, calm, joy, fulfillment, because you deserve it, because that's what the purpose of life is. It's to enjoy life and feel all the feelings. Okay. Let me glance at my notes. I tend to go on happiness tangents. So, okay, let's go back to the subconscious mind and what it's doing to our confidence and self-esteem, because we're talking about confidence tonight, right? I'm just going to glance at messages. Yeah. Habits can be tricky, but good job, Melissa. Okay, one of the 7 main areas of happiness is the mind. And this is where confidence comes in. We have it or we don't, or we have it sometimes, or we beat ourselves up sometimes. This is part of the mind. And this has to do with our thinking and the neural pathways in our brain. And the catchphrase here is don't believe everything you think. Don't believe everything you think. Just because you have a thought does not mean that it's true. I had a thought that I was stuck in my marriage. But guess what? I wasn't. I only thought that I was. And what we think and what we tell ourselves is the basis of our self-esteem. And unfortunately, low self-esteem is an epidemic. 2 out of 3 adults in this country have low self-esteem. And that also carries through the Western world. That's a really high percentage. So there aren't that many of you here tonight, but if you look right at, or to the right of the screen, usually I'm doing this in person, look right, look left. One of you is okay. I'm not going to tell you who you are. One of you. Most of you, that's the sad fact. Most of you deal with low self-esteem. How many of you have kids? Show of hands. Even if you're watching this later, raise your hands anyway. Have fun with me. Okay. All of you raised your hands. Me too. So 80% of our first graders have high self-esteem. That's pretty good, right? 80%. Yay, they're running around with their Superman capes going, I can do anything. I'm the best at everything. They're so kick-ass. Get to fifth grade, it goes down to 20%. Just 20%. By the time they're seniors in high school, around ages 17, 18, it's down to just 5%. So those numbers correlate, right? 5% of graduating seniors turns into 2 out of 3 adults. I'm not a math major. You could do the math and find out if that's accurate. But 2 out of 3 adults, just 5 out of 100 of our seniors experience self-esteem, high self-esteem, solid confidence. I hope you'll share this with the kids in your life and the parents in your life, because a happier future is made from a healthier self-esteem. It's created by the thoughts we're having today. And those thoughts, our self-esteem, is based on something called our self-talk. All right, one more, raise your hands. How many of you talk to yourself during the day? Oh, thank you for your honesty. Sometimes I'll have people who don't raise their hands, and I say, well, I bet you're sitting there thinking, do I talk to myself? I don't know if I do. I don't think I do. Well, yes, you're doing it right now. It's called thinking, and we do it all day long. We're thinking thoughts all day long. Drop in the chat how many thoughts a day you would guess on average we have. And if you know this because you've already learned this or taken my course or your own, just hold back for a second. How many thoughts a day do you think the average person has? Go ahead and drop it in the comments. Um, 100, 1,000, quite a variation. I believe that if I had 100 or 1,000 thoughts a day, I'd be the calmest person I know. 800. You guys are shooting a little low, because guess what? We have on average 60,000 thoughts a day. 60,000. That's a lot of thinking. Now, what percentage would you guess, and you can drop this in the chat too, what percentage of those 60,000 thoughts a day do you think are the same thoughts that you had yesterday and the day before and the day before that? Who has a guess? Show me in the comments. What percentage? Someone said 80, 90. You guys are much closer this time. It's 95%. 95% of your thoughts today are the same ones you had yesterday and the day before and the day before. We just keep thinking the same things over and over, ruminated. We're like broken record players. Let's do a little experiment together to see how habitual our thoughts are. So go ahead and unmute now, and we'll play a little verbal exercise game. And I'd like for you to spell the word silk with me. And if you are watching this back on a recording, do it anyway. So let's spell the word silk together. Silk.
S-I-L-K.
Good. Perfect. Now let's say it together 3 times rapidly. Silk.
Silk. Silk. Silk. Silk.
Okay. Now, what do cows drink?
Milk.
Water.
Pause and thought. And somebody else said milk. Yesterday, my entire group of like 25 people all shouted milk and then started cracking up. Thank you for playing along. You can remute yourself.
Thanks.
You're welcome. We so quickly get into this pattern, and most of us aren't pausing to consider. We're just like, oh, silk, silk, silk. Yeah, it must be milk because that rhymes. That's how quickly we fall into a pattern. These are called our neural pathways. And over and over, we think the same things. We get comfortable thinking the same things. So here's the most important piece of the research. What percentage of an average person's thoughts are negative on any given day? Drop that guess into the comments below. What percentage of our 60,000 thoughts would you guess are negative? I have a 75. I have an 80. 80. Ding, 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 ding. You guys are like, now I'm getting closer because these numbers are all really high. It's 80%. So 40,000 negative thoughts a day on average. That's like exhausting, isn't it? It's not what we're doing. It's not how busy we are all day. It's what we're thinking about what we're doing, how we're thinking about what we're doing. And those negative thoughts are draining us of our energy, of our vitality, of our radiance. And you know you're not alone in this, right? We are, by design, negative thinkers. It's how we evolved and survived to this point in civilization. We had to be aware very, very quickly of the dangers in our lives. And we still have this bias, but we don't need it like we used to. Rick Hansen is the author of The Buddha's Brain and Hardwiring Happiness. And he calls this the Velcro Teflon syndrome. And we have these minds that are like Velcro for the negative. It sticks, one bad thing sticks and sticks and sticks. And they're like Teflon for the positive. So those positive things just slide right off of you. How many of you are walking around telling yourself how great you are all day, like those kindergartners or first graders? Probably not very many of you, but I bet most of you are walking around going, man, I'm so dumb. I can't believe I did that thing. What an idiot. I'll never succeed. I'll never do this. We're saying such negative, harsh things to ourselves so often. Happier people have reversed this syndrome. So we Velcro the positive and Teflon the negative so that it slides right off. Easier said than done, right? This is why people work with me for months to solidify and strengthen these new habits and neural pathways toward the positive. And the worst, most depleting negative thoughts are what I want to address tonight, because these are the confidence killers, these self-directed negative thoughts that come from our subconscious mind, specifically what I call the inner critic, your inner bully, that one that's always talking smack to you. It says things like I just said a minute ago, like you'll never be successful. You'll never have that business you want. You'll always be fat. You're too lazy. Sometimes that voice is coming from our parents. It's old programming, or teachers, or some cruel person in our lives who said things they really had no business saying to us, but they stuck. And that became our own voice. And now we tell ourselves horrible things, horrible lies. That's right. They're lies. Your inner critic is a big fat liar, but he has, or she has, or they have a loving goal. And this goal is to protect us. The inner critic, the subconscious mind, wants to protect you. Isn't that so sweet? Its job is to keep us safe. Safe, however, to the subconscious mind equals the status quo. Whatever your life looks like right now, whatever your life feels like right now, is what your subconscious mind thinks it needs to keep you at. It doesn't like change. It's uncomfortable. It's weird. It's awkward. So stop doing that. You don't need to work out. You'll always be fat. Knock it off. Just watch Netflix and eat Doritos. That's where we're safe. Oh, you don't want to repeat the same pattern in relationship? Sure you do. Keep going out with jerks. That's what we know. We know how to deal with those guys, or women. Women can be jerks too, especially to ourselves. Keep doing that. Keep repeating that behavior. Yeah, we know that. We know how to handle that. So it's trying to keep us safe, but it's also sabotaging our confidence and our success and our joy. Why bother going for that promotion or starting your own business if you're not good enough to succeed? Or stop eating all the cookies because you'll never lose the weight. Why bother? Why bother? Why bother? Why bother? So Like, Tamara, okay, enough of all the negativity. What do? We interrupt the inner critic. So it's just a neural pathway in your brain that is a pattern thought, silk, 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 milk. No, we've got to develop a pause so we actually remember what's true and can change the habit and strengthen a neural pathway toward being nice to ourselves, being kind to ourselves. So I'm going to invite you to spend a couple of minutes doing something highly uncomfortable. Okay? And remember, change is hard at first and messy in the middle. And this is the hard part. Caterpillars, however, just a reminder, they don't emerge as these butterflies and fly all around. No, they sit in the goo for a while, right? They sit in a gooey, messy cocoon, chrysalis. It's yucky in there, but they have to go through that to emerge as a butterfly, and so do we. So let's get a little gooey, and I want you to remember that you have a tool that we have already practiced called the quick coherence technique. So you can breathe in that same way through this if it gets really uncomfortable or your heart rate starts to go all crazy and erratic. Breathe in that slow, deep, conscious way to keep your brain on board if it feels hard. And it may. It usually does. If you have a pen and paper handy, grab it now. And I'll give you a minute, maybe two, because I saw someone have to get up and grab a pen and paper. So I'll give you 2 minutes to write down the worst thing you say to yourself. Write down the worst things that you say to yourself. Up to 5 things, no more than that. If you get 5 out in a minute, we have work to do, honey. And we all have work to do. So take the next minute or two to write down the worst of the things that you say to yourself. I'm too fat. I'm too ugly. I'll never succeed. I can't have this. Nobody loves me. I'll never be loved. I'm not lovable. I'm not enough. I'm not good enough. I'm not smart enough. I'm not whatever enough. Write a few of those down. Be with the goo. Stop if you get to 5. Please. About 30 more seconds. All right, finish your final thought and take a look at what you've written down. If you have more than one thing, go ahead and circle the one that cuts the deepest or comes up the most frequently. And now we're going to create a pattern interrupt, because your critical thinking is just a pattern that you're used to doing. But now you know a little bit more about how your mind works, and therefore you can begin to notice more often when those critical thoughts come up, when you're being really harsh with yourself, when this critical statement that you just circled comes up, you'll begin to notice it instead of it just going by completely unaware. So to begin with, we're just going to work with this one. There are a lot more steps. I spend an hour to 2 hours with clients on this typically, so we can practice and really get it down, but we don't have time for that. So come to one of my longer programs, work with me, come to my retreat, so that you can really, really change this habit. But for now, this is enough. Awareness and noticing is where we begin. Step 2, we interrupt the pattern. So the way we're going to do this is to come up with a stop word. Now you have your mini critical bully phrase. Now I want you to come up with a stop word so that every time you notice yourself thinking that thought or even saying it out loud, you interrupt it with something as simple as stop it, or, so whatever it is, I'm going to give you a few examples. It's a short phrase or a word that you can use whenever you catch yourself saying that critical thing to yourself. And Eventually you can use it on every bad, negative, meanie, bully thought that you have. But for like the next few days, just practice with the biggest mean thought, the one that you've circled. Some people will say, just stop. Some people say, stop, cancel, delete. They like that one because it kind of interrupts it and then erases it. I used to pull from my favorite movie, The Princess Bride, and I would say, liar. And some people just say, knock it off. One man I worked with, he would say portopus or yeah, that's what he would say. It was like a made up animal word, but he used it because it interrupted the pattern, and then he could reset and change his mind. So choose a phrase that works for you. And I invite you to write that down too, to work with for the next few days. And every time you notice yourself telling yourself some really mean things, you use that phrase. Practice, practice, practice. Last time I had someone ask me, Tamara, is this where you leave us? Yes, this is where I leave you for tonight. The next step would be turn that thought around into a positive. So the exact opposite of the critical statement is what you then say to yourself after the stop word. And then we practice that over and over and over, and we find evidence to take it to the next level. We find evidence as to why the kinder, more positive statement is true. Wish we had time to do all of this, but we do not tonight. So simply start practicing that. How about, yes, I will? I kind of like that. Yeah. If you're like, you'll never do it. Yes, I will. Say that to every negative thought that you have. Yes, I will. Unless it's like, you're going to always stay fat. Don't say, yes, I will to that. So make sure those thoughts are like the core of the negative belief in there. Not just, oh, nobody likes you. Well, what's it saying about you? If you think the thought nobody likes me, why don't they like you? Well, because I'm really boring. That's the thought you work with. I'm a boring person. I don't have any interesting things to say. That's the thought you work. That hurts a lot more than people don't like me. Well, what for? People do like you, by the way. And work with those harmful thoughts. Interrupt the pattern with whatever stop word. Knock it off. It's good. Yeah. Delete or stop. It's like slamming your brakes. That's a great example. That's what you're doing. You're slamming the brakes on your inner voice, that inner critical voice, that inner critic. When I run a retreat, so if any of you are in Michigan or like to visit, I run a retreat in May, and we spend time practicing this so much. We actually pair up, and one of us becomes the other's inner critic, and we practice stopping it and turning it around. And then we find all the evidence as to why we're really awesome people and we can do anything we set our minds to. So we don't have time to practice tonight because I want to get through to one more thing. But how would it feel to begin to interrupt that critical thinking? How would it feel? You could drop a word or a phrase in the comments. How do you think right now, just noticing that inner critic thought or belief and noticing that it's possible to interrupt it and change your mind? How does that feel? It would feel fabulous. Yes, it does. I will tell you that I have done this work for a long time. Lighter and empowering. Absolutely. I've done this work for a long time, and like almost like over 10 years, right? Last year, I took a position as a guest sales coach for a high level coach. I'll drop those in the chat for you. Hardwiring Happiness and the Buddha's brain. And I was a guest sales coach. So I was there to support her in selling her program. And I would get on calls with people and talk about the benefits and help people like envision their lives, much like I do with my own clients. But this was for a big, big ticket program. And I would catch that inner critic popping into my conversations, not out loud, of course, but I would notice as I was talking to someone about this program that my inner critic was like, you're so bad at this. You can't sell anything. Why are you even doing this? And I was just like, they're like, you didn't see this part. They didn't see this part, but this piece of me that was like, shush, you. Like, you have here. This is simply a growing edge for me, and I can handle this. Thanks for trying to protect me. I've got this. Please go take a nap. And so the more we work with this inner critic, the more we catch it, the sooner we catch it, and the kinder we start to be with ourselves. Just because something is new or different or uncomfortable doesn't mean you're bad at it. It means you're brand new at it, right? We all fell down the first time we took a few steps. We all fell down the first time we started walking. We all fall down the first time we do anything new. And if we started off naturally brilliant at it, well, eventually we'll fall and have to get back up. And these tools help support us in that. So imagine doing that on a longer term basis and really, really changing the way that you think at and treat yourself. Oh, I love it. We have one more key to discuss that will leave us on a high note, feeling really, really good, because that's what I want you to feel more of in your life. But before I do, I want to quickly share with you a story of a client. I think I may have already mentioned him briefly, but he is a single dad. He's in his late 30s now. And he came to me because he had lost his zest for life. Everything felt hard. He had ticked all the boxes, but life still didn't feel good or fulfilling or joyful. And he was like, what the heck did I do all this for? What the heck did I work so hard for? Got that education, got that job / career, got that wife, got those 2.5 kids and a home, then got that divorce, all right, and had that crisis of, I ticked all the boxes and I'm still not happy. And for him, I'll call him Paul tonight. For him, he has 2 kids who are right around, they're about to hit teenage years if they haven't already. And he had this mountain of have-to-dos because he's a single dad with the kids most of the time. And you don't have to be a parent to feel like you have the weight of the world on your shoulders either. A lot of us are weighed down, bogged down by life's adult responsibilities. That's why the adulting is so hard, has been going around for the last few years, because it is. And what he found was that he wasn't enjoying any of his life, not time with his kids, not his work anymore. He didn't even do things that he enjoyed. But the hardest part for Paul was that he loved his kids so much, but he wasn't spending quality, joyful time with them. They weren't making memories together. They were just getting through the day. And he felt robbed of the very thing that made him want to be a parent in the first place. We all have to learn how to cultivate more joy in our lives, because we don't learn this as kids yet. I'm on a mission to change that too. But we need these skills that we never learned in childhood. So I worked with Paul and took him through my Radiant Happiness Rebirth process. And he began to get in touch with the true source of his own joy so that he could bring that into his relationships, especially with his kids. We actually spent time reprogramming the neurology, those patterns in the brain, so that he put more attention on what was working, on what he liked, on where he was confident and what he felt good about in his life. And he went from being serious and frustrated, stressed out and depleted, to doing fun, silly things with his kids. And he couldn't even help it, because that's the energy that was coming from inside him once we tapped him into this place. And this feeling, I love this part of the story, because this feeling of joy became so potent and real that it's lasted. Now it's been almost 2 years since we worked together, and he's still experiencing this level of joy within his own life and his kids. He's taken up like the guitar. He used to play music. He stopped for a long time, and now he plays again. He brought together his old bandmates and they have fun together again. And this joy even carried over into his ex-wife's house. So through the kids, the other parent's house became more joyful too. Isn't that cool? I love that. This is life-changing, not just for Paul, but also for his children and every generation to follow in his line. And I love to teach practical strategies, and I did that with Paul, like whatever will fit into your life and however we can make it fit, because I want sustainable change for my clients. I don't want it to be a 90-minute, I feel better, and then tomorrow's the same old, same old. I want my clients to have lasting, sustainable change like I have, like my clients have. And so I'm going to skip to the end of the story. These small, simple, structured new habits and behaviors, new thoughts, new habits of thought and behavior changed his whole life. And he's having fun again. And just imagine what these habits over the long term could do for you. They can do for you what they did for me, what they did for Paul, what they did with, I could name you 10 other clients that I've worked with who have radically transformed their experience in life through being held with accountability and loving support to take these brand new behaviors that feel weird, awkward, uncomfortable into new ways of being. That's what I want for all of you. So if you feel like it might be supportive for you to work with me on a deeper level, on a longer term, I'm just going to grab a little link here for you and drop it in the talk, into the chat. And this is a no cost, no obligation, 30 minutes with me with a free gift, because I want to give so much in this world. I want you all to have the tools and have access to what can make you happy, whether you can pay for it or not, whether you feel like you can invest in it or not, whether you know you're worth your own investment or not. I want to give you resources that can help you on your way. So we can spend 30 minutes together addressing your specific happiness challenges, giving you a tool that will work for your specific challenge so that you can practice and start creating a life you love now. And if you walk away from that and say, that's good, Tam, I'm done, we'll still be friends. I'll still invite you to all my things. But I'm standing for you because you support so many people in your life, and you deserve to have support in your life. So book a call with me if you feel so called, and we'll hang out for 30 minutes, getting you on a happier path with greater inner peace and well-being. Okay, now I'm going to skip the rest of that pitch because you don't need it. You know in your heart if it's right for you or not. And if you can hear a really loud engine right now, nod your head. Can anybody hear that? Oh, thank goodness. I love this microphone. Okay. My dog hears it and I hear it. Let's go to our final key, which is clarity. Clarity is power. The power to create anything you want in your life. And under the umbrella of clarity falls purpose and meaning. Getting clear on what matters the most to you in your life right now, not 10 years ago, not 10 years from now, right now, getting clear on this, and then making those things your priority is what makes us feel alive and on purpose and joyful and radiant in our lives. But so many of us are doing like my single dad client did, just getting through each day instead of really living. I don't want you to have to give up your joy in order to shoulder life's responsibilities. In fact, I want you to take time for yourself, to make time for yourself, to do the things that light you up and bring you joy, things that energize you, things that open and expand you. Because when you have that light from within energizing you, you actually have more time in your life because you move through your day with more energy and more efficiency. That's why putting your attention on what makes you feel alive matters so much. And I've shared these keys in the opposite order of how I promoted this talk because I want to end tonight with you leaving feeling this sense of hope and possibility in your heart. Because a radiantly happy life is possible for you. And I know because I'm living proof. And my clients are living proof. One client finished 18 months of one-on-one work with me. So she extended her 6-month package 3 times because when she started with me, her happiness assessment score was 37 out of 100. That's really incredibly low. She was completely depleted. Her relationships were suffering. Her old stories were running her life. And when she completed her one-on-one journey with me just about 6 weeks ago, her score was 87. Her whole life had changed. Her mother was not the prominent voice in her head anymore, telling her she couldn't do anything right. Her own voice was the prominent voice in her head, telling her she could try and do and be good enough. Her relationship with her husband improved, and she was able to navigate stressful health issues, an adult son moving home issues, all with grace and mindfulness and love because she practiced these tools. She worked, and she worked so beautifully. And she moved from kind of coming at me like this, really dull, really quite sad, low energy, to leaving like this. And I would see her light up and see that smile come from within. And it's such a gift to witness that transformation, much less be a part of someone's. So every client starts with me on getting really clear on what they want their lives to look and feel like. And when I don't have time to spend hours or weeks or months with you, I do this little practice we're going to do tonight. So we are going to complete a sentence, and I'm going to invite you to complete this sentence for 2 full minutes. I'm going to give you 2 full minutes. I invite you to either, you have a couple of options here, write it down, or, and I'll drop the root of this sentence in the comments below, either write it down 10 times or say it out loud 10 times. You could even drop it in the comments 10 times so that we can inspire each other. So the root of the sentence is, what makes me feel alive is, and then you're going to fill in the blank for a whole minute or 10 times, whatever comes first, a minute or 2 or 10 times, whatever comes first. I'm going to show you how this works. I want you to repeat the root phrase over and over and over. Can you guess by now why? Because we want to create a new neural pathway in your brain toward the positive. And the more that we look for the good in our lives, the more we see it and feel it. So, for example, I'll give you a few from my own life, a few from my clients' lives. What makes me feel alive is presenting on happiness. Oh, this, can you tell? What makes me feel alive is a good, hearty belly laugh, especially with my kids. What makes me feel alive is walking on the beach. What makes me feel alive is dancing. What makes me feel alive is a really good yoga flow. What makes me feel alive is deep conversations. What makes me feel alive is a really long hug with someone I adore. You might have, what makes me feel alive is some really good sex. What makes me feel alive is a delicious meal. Doesn't matter. No judgment. What makes you feel alive makes you feel alive. So say it out loud or write it down, and I'll give you until 6:51 to do so. And if you're putting it in the comments, awesome, because we inspire each other. So often in groups, I'll see people bounce off of each other and they're like, oh, yeah, me too. What makes me feel alive is karaoke. What makes me feel alive is playing with my pets. What makes me feel alive is feeling healthy, because then I can do everything. Yes, we love our health. What makes me feel alive is a good drink of water. What makes you feel alive? Keep repeating it over and over, writing it down over and over. Different things. Different things. It could be helping people. It could be a bubble bath. It could be whatever kind of art you create. Anything, everything counts. What makes you feel alive? Okay. Witnessing my daughter's happiness, learning about spirituality, TEDx talks. I love TED Talks. Those are so good. Yes. So there's so many things. So I invite you to start paying attention to the things that spark joy in your life, the things that energize you. And good job noticing. Now go do some of those things. Yes, I hear grandchildren a lot. Maybe one day I'll have some, but my kids are way too young to be having kids. So my cats bring me joy. Whatever it is that brings purpose and meaning and joy and light into your own heart is what you could do more of. Remember, the more that we do the things that light us up, the more energy we actually have. We want to serve from our overflow, not from an empty cup. And we've got to be filling up ourselves in order to bring more joy into the lives of the people that we care about, or in order to be there for them. So this is what clarity is about: getting clear on how you want to feel, on what you can do that brings you more joy and purpose and meaning. Yeah, it's trying to feel stronger. And laughter and joyful things help us get healthier, right? And you boosted your immune system tonight by practicing that quick coherence technique. One time I was the only person in the house that didn't get COVID. And I swear up and down it's because this is what I teach for a living. So I'm constantly raising and boosting my immune system. And I'm constantly feeling joy because I'm teaching it. So getting clear on what you want your life to look and feel like is a really vital way to begin to create a life you love. If you don't know what you want, how can you get it? We don't just call up Amazon and say, hey, send me something cool. Right? No, we say, hey, Amazon, send me this very specific thing in this very color, and I would like this size too, please. And then Amazon sends it to us, and the universe is just like Amazon. Whatever you call that higher being is just like Amazon. You're placing orders all the time. It might be of stuff you don't want anymore in your life, but you keep placing that order, so it keeps sending it to you. We've got to get clear on what we do want so that we get more of that, because what we put our attention on grows stronger in our lives. And we want to put our attention on the things that matter. My screen just froze. If you can still see and hear me, please send me a note in the comments. It is raining here in Michigan, and I never know. Is it all still good? You're moving again. I don't know if okay, perfect. Good. Maybe the universe just really wanted you to bring that quote home. What you put your attention on grows stronger in your life. So whatever makes you feel alive, do more of that. Oh, Marissa, I am so glad that you came to that realization. May I share out loud what you just shared? Okay. I just realized I can't depend my happiness on making sure she is happy. A point I have to work on, a point you get to work on, right? Here's one thing I know as a parent, as a friend, as a partner. I'm in charge of my journey, and I get to trust that they can handle theirs. I'm a guide for my children, for sure. I'm a mirror for my partner, for sure. And a teacher for my clients. But if I am wrapped up in the outcome for someone else, I'm not taking care of myself, and I take away their belief in themselves, because here I am showing up saying, let me fix this for you because you clearly can't handle it. That's what the client I mentioned whose score went up so high, that's what she learned in childhood. You're not good at this. You're going to fail at this. Let me fix this for you. Her mom fixed everything, the dishwasher, the schoolwork. She picked out her clothes. She had a medical problem when she was just starting to own her adulthood that took her back home. And her mom was like, you can't take care of yourself. I'll take care of you. That's the message she got. She lived with that for almost 60 years until she came to me and we helped her change her mind. And then she took responsibility for her own happiness, forgave her mother for not knowing any better, forgave herself for not knowing any better. There's a lot of self-forgiveness work in happiness. And so I'm really happy that you had that realization. I remind myself as a parent of 3 young adults now, right? They're turning 15, 18, and I have a 19-year-old. I'm on my journey. They're on theirs. It's my, hey, shush. It's my job to be a guide and a support for them. But if I get wrapped up and drawn into their cycle of critical thinking or behaviors that don't support them, then I can't be a support to them either. We all need a support in our lives. We all need a support in our lives. So I'd love to hear from all of you. Marissa, that might have been your biggest aha from tonight, but I'd love to hear from all of you before we say goodbye. What are you taking home with you? I love to say, what are you taking home with you when we're on a Zoom call and we're all probably sitting in our homes? But what are you going to take with you tonight that you are going to remember and practice again and again to help you increase your own level of happiness so that one day you might find yourself feeling radiantly happy too? Drop that in the comments. Let me know what you're taking home with you tonight. We only think we're stuck. Thank you. Big one, isn't it? I love that. Thank you. What else? What was your biggest takeaway, your biggest insight, your biggest aha? What are you going to remember from tonight? Happiness is the default feeling. I didn't even say those words, but you know it's true. That's our natural state. It's life that weighs us down, and we can clean it up. We can clean out the debris, and we have to pull that rug back in order to see what's there. And then we clean it up, and then we feel lighter and happier. I know that I overthink things so much, and now I know I can try and stop that pattern. Yes, you can do it. You can try it, and you can do it. You can do it. Come hang out with me more often, Moline. Melissa, working daily on my new healthy habits so I can bring more joy and clarity into my life because I want to be and feel happier. Yes, 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 yes. It all starts with awareness and then practice. So we get comfortable doing new things, being calm, being clear, being happier. It's new for some of us, and we get to practice. Thank you so much for sharing your time with me. I'll stay on for a few more minutes if anyone has any questions. But I just want to share with you. Let me just check my notes real quick, see if there's anything else I want to make sure I don't leave behind. I'll throw some statistics out here while I'm scrolling my notes. Did you know happier people live 9 years longer than unhappier people, make more money, and sleep better? There you go. Second key, confidence. That's where we worked on that inner critic. So clarity, knowing what we want life to look and feel like, calmness, so we can create from a place of peace, and the confidence so that we believe that we are worthy and capable of creating that life we love. Yes. Okay. So we're officially complete with tonight. I'm going to tell you a little bit about different opportunities to work with me. I want to thank all of you for your time. So grateful that you showed up for yourself tonight. And I truly do believe that we can make this world a better, happier place, one happier person at a time. And when you commit to practicing these new skills and new tools so that they become your new habits and way of being, you create sustainable, lasting happiness in your life. Thank you for being here. I'm Tamara Ziller, and it helps to have support, and I love to support. So here's how I support people. One, I offered you all a free call, a free 30 minutes with me. So find that link back up in the comments, click on it, book your call. Two, I run a local meetup. So if you happen to live in the Metro Detroit area, I run a monthly meetup called Create a Life You Love Now. And we get together and we have coffee and we talk and, and we really share the deepest part of ourselves. This is a beautiful way to connect with me. My next one is happening September 14th, and you can visit meetup.com and search for events. I wish you did too, Melissa. So for those of you who don't live close to me, I do periodic online events, but I have a private Facebook group where I'm showing up consistently to share inspiration, motivation, encouragement, love, asking you how you really are, because some days we need to tell it like it is. No toxic positivity here. And then, of course, if you feel like you are ready to do some deeper work and really create lasting change in your life, there are levels of support. One is a one-off session. We do a 3-hour clarity intensive where we spend time designing that life you want to live. And then I teach you how to align your life with it so that every day becomes more joyful and fulfilling. That's the lowest one-on-one experience, lowest investment rate. If you're local as well, I do run wellness weekends at Body Language, Fitness and Yoga. And that one's coming up this Saturday where we talk a little bit about what we talked about tonight, happiness basics. Never know what I'm going to pull out of my little happiness pouch, though. So we'll see. My dog is not happy about the other dogs. Hey, I'm going to mute for just 1 second and then hey. All right, I'm going to pet her so she stays happy. Second level, work with me, group programs. So I run a 9-month group program that is restarting in October. I'm just finishing with one cohort and I'm opening to a new one. This is a beautiful way to learn and grow these skills in community. And it's especially powerful for those of us who maybe felt rejected in community before, or like we can't quite find our community. This is a bunch of people coming together, and it's a small group. I keep it small. I have 6 this time around. I'll go up to 10 or 12, but no more than that, so that we can have a really personal experience together. And that's a very powerful way and a 9-month commitment. So I really hold you in the space of sustainable change. So it's a little bit of workshopping, kind of like we did tonight. We do that for the first session of the month. Second session of the month, we do a little more direct coaching, sharing what's working for us, what we've been practicing, and then we learn another tool most often. Third tier of working with me is one-on-one work. I ask for a 6-month commitment because what I have learned working with people for less time is that here's where the messy middle happens. It's right around the 3-month mark where we start to make changes in our lives and our subconscious mind freaks out. We just start to have them feeling good. And then the subconscious mind goes, no, go back to the way it used to be. We like it better. This is scary. And so I hold clients through until 6 months. And to be honest, most clients renew for another 6 months or at minimum a 3-month kind of care package of check-ins at a lower level of support, but still meeting a couple of times a month. So these are the options. If you are local, come to everything I do. Come hang out with me at meetups, at Body Language, where I'm doing wellness events. They're only $20. Meetups are $10. The wellness weekends are $20. It's a super low investment. Come hang out with me. If you're not local, come hang out with me online. Meetup. Sometimes I do virtual meetups. I'm on in the Facebook group all the time, and I do weekly lives on Insight Timer, which is a meditation app. And I pull truth bombs over there. It's a lot of fun. I love that group of people. So you can have totally free access to me, or if you're ready and willing to invest in yourself more time, more energy, more money, then we can talk about that too. And no, I don't share all the prices on a call like this because sometimes I will discuss with you payment options for longer term payments if that works for you. The Facebook group, you can find it under my name, but it's called Create a Life You Love Now. And I'm going to trust my dog to be calm, so I'll stop. I can grab those links for you because I just sent them to somebody earlier because I had a fun little podcast interview. I also do a ton of podcasts. So if you may have already had this thought, but my name is fairly unique. I think there's one other Tamara Zoner in the world, and she's in South America, and she only writes in Spanish, so it's not me. You can Google me, and especially if you were to Google Tamara Zoner podcast, you'll find a ton of podcasts with me. I have a YouTube channel. It's just YouTube/Tamara Zoner, Facebook/Tamara Zoner, Instagram/ maybe Facebook is one Tamara Zoner, Instagram Tamara Zoner. I'm easy to find, and my website has all of this. And if you visit my website, which I'll just drop right in here, and you sign up for my mailing list, you'll get a free gift. That it's an ebook, 10 tips for dating yourself and 10 solo dates to get you started so that you can cultivate a deeper, more loving relationship with yourself. And you'll also you can sign up for my newsletter so that you get news of the events that I'm currently running. I try to include value in that content, but I'm honestly hit or miss with my newsletters. So they really only come to you when I've got something important to say, or I'm running an event that I think will benefit you. So you're not going to get spammed by me because I basically only send out a newsletter maybe once or twice a month, and maybe like I did today on the day of an event. So if you forgot to sign up or I forgot to send that newsletter out, then you have a last minute opportunity, which I believe some of you actually got today because I was like, oh, I got to tell some people this is happening, but I forgot to tell or fix a link that was broken. So you can find me in so many ways. And if you're like, I don't know, I'm not really sure how I'll benefit or what would work for me, well, then book that call. Book that call because I want to talk to you about it so that we can see what might work for us working together. And I will definitely leave you walking away from that call with one more tool that works for you. Or if one of the tools we talked about tonight really resonated and you wish we had more time with it, we can go back. We can practice that inner critic. We can do whatever we feel is the most important thing to tackle on that call for you. And if you're like, hey, Tamara, I'm a coach, or I'm a happiness trainer, or I'm doing these things and I'm curious about the way you run them, well, book that call. I'm open to that too. I love to connect with people. It's my favorite thing. Oh, it's okay to be scared. Thank you for a private message. I will not call you out. We're all scared because change is uncomfortable. The subconscious mind wants us to stay where we're at. And I don't encourage waiting until you feel ready because that day may never come. But if you're on the edge of your seat going, I'm scared and I want it. I want it and I'm scared. Take a step forward into the life that you want. Boldly, courageously. Remember that courage doesn't come without fear. Courage is fear in action. We do the thing anyway. I'm scared and I'm doing this thing anyway. That's courage. You have that. It's just a muscle that we build through practice, like any of the skills and tools that I teach. Happiness is a practice. Inner peace and well-being comes from practice. And life will still happen. So the more we practice and the more support we have in practicing new habits until they become lasting, sustainable ways of being, which, by the way, is not the 3 weeks or 21 days that traditional wisdom may tell us, but more like 72 days and beyond, the more likely we are to stick with these changes and have our happiness scores go from numbers like 37 to 87, or have the feeling of being weighed down by all of our responsibilities to actually enjoying life, or thinking that you're stuck in an abusive marriage and you just have to take what you've got and make the best of it, to changing your mind and walking away from a toxic situation, even if you're scared to death, because you know that there's life on the other side of that. There's life on the other side of your fear. Don't let it stop you. Let it fuel you. Okay, you're welcome. This is when it's fun to work with me in a really casual thing, or after the event closes, because then I get to like just go. And I really love to do that. So you locals, I see a couple of you here. I want to see you at my meetups. And you onliners, you Zoomers, come to whatever you can. Come to whatever you can. Because it is a proven fact that the more time you spend with me, the happier you become. I laugh saying that because 5 years ago, I could have never said that out loud. I would have been like, oh my God, my ego. Today, I'm like, no, it's true. This is the result people get. And really, there's science behind that too, but I'll tell you about that another time. So, I don't know where you're calling in from, except for 2 of you that I know are local, but I'm getting hungry. So, does anyone else have any questions? If you'd like this recording, email me and I will drop my email in the comment, in the chat. It's Tamara at alifeyoulovenow.com. And you can simply email me and say, please send me the recording. Or if you're like all out and you just need to go to bed, just topic recording. And I'll send it to you when I get to that, probably Monday. Tuesday. Monday's my kid's birthday. I want to honor each one of you for showing up, because there's something inside of you that's asking for more. There's something inside of you that knows there is more, and you deserve it. You deserve to create a life you love. You deserve to live that life starting now. So practice that quick coherence technique. Visit me wherever you can visit me. YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, that's where I play. If you're local, show up. If you're not, consider coming to the retreat in May. Details will come out soon. Sign up for that newsletter. Trust that the radiance that you see in me is possible for you. I didn't always look this way. I didn't always smile this way. I didn't always know these things or practice these tools, and I do now. And that's why I know it's possible for you too, no matter where you're starting from. All right. You will get a little after event survey to fill out. I would love it if you completed that, or if you have feedback or testimonial for me, email me that too. It really, really helps me to reach more hearts when someone else is telling them what they gained from an experience with me. So please and thank you. Thank you so much for spending some of your time and energy with me tonight. And I hope that I see you all very soon. The dog's going to bark again. Oh, Oh, Amsterdam, New York. I was like, I'm gonna be in Sweden this month. But Amsterdam, New York, I'm not gonna be in New York. But hopefully yeah, I will book a call. Perfect. Let's chat. Yeah, the universe is showing up for you because you're showing up for yourself. Okay, cool. I can't wait to talk to you again, person who messaged me in the private messaging. Thank you. I really appreciate your comments, and I'm going to keep this chat and with permission, share some of your comments. Thank you all for being here. Go take great care of yourselves tonight. You deserve it. And email me or book that call, and we'll talk again soon. Good night, everybody.